And we're back at it, the Dream 3 podcast with Showtime Sports Cards, Doughboy Sports Cards 1, and Alpha Bets, brought to you by the Kings of Nitro Clothing. Guys, we're back at it again. We're going to try to make this one short and sweet. A lot of stuff happened this past weekend, a lot of stuff we can get into. But first off, the biggest fight of the weekend that was on the internet. No, I'm not talking about Adesanya. No, I'm not talking about the Diaz brothers. I'm talking about Zion Williamson throwing hands in the parking lot from about 3 years ago. I want Zion Williams versus Jake Paul tomorrow. I'll pay for it. What do you think about that video coming out now?
I don't know. He must have been in a Whataburger parking lot and, it was for free food or something. I don't know. It's the only way you get that kind of motion and activity out of Zion.
My question is, was this a club?
It looked like a
it
looked like a Whataburger parking lot.
I saw the video, but
it was poor lighting.
No, it looked like the description that I saw was like it was a club parking lot, and these guys get into it with someone who looks like Zion, and
he's big enough.
Zion backs away and then throws a couple right hands, and two dudes go to sleep. Like, if I'm throwing hands with somebody, I'm not going to pick the tall, buff dude with hands of the size of bricks. Like, I'm going to pick any of the 135 pound.
Sagano's younger brother.
Exactly. So with that being said, does that help or hurt his sports cards? I'm saying if he's knocking dudes out, his Prism Silver should go through the roof.
I guarantee you it spiked when that came out. I guarantee it. Even if it was two eBay auctions that ended in an hour, I guarantee you they got 10 bids out of it. 100%.
I'm buying Zion if he's throwing haymakers on children.
100%. 100%. He might not have the team on the court, but if he's throwing hands off court, I'm buying him 100% of the time.
If he's throwing haymakers instead of throwing down Whataburger, he's going to be a good NBA player.
I mean, he might end up in the NFL as a fullback, but if you're talking about his cards real quick, is the hype over on Zion? If you look at the Prism Silvers, and I saw a stat today from Card Ladder, the Prism Silvers are pop like 2,200. Like, I thought silvers were supposed to be, a low distributed card, but did they just print so much Prism from last year that now it's saturated the market and Zion cards, Jaw cards, stuff like that are losing their value?
I would say they've done that for probably the past 3 years. 18, 19, and 20 have been so overproduced that, your silvers at a pop 2,000. I mean, if you look at like the Mahomes PSA 10, there's only 800 or something in the pop. So I think they're just trying to use it for money. Like, the more they can produce with how much demand there is, the supply is still low. Like, obviously the base cards, there's way too many of those, and you've seen the correction in that. But I think for silvers, that might be the new base card, if you will.
I think if Zion was in the playoffs and doing what Luka did and what Trey was doing, I don't think you'd see much of that dip.
The thing is, he's not. He seems like the kind of guy who's just going to go out and get his, and he's not going to make your team better and have a chance to win. Like, he's not a playmaker. You know?
He definitely needs somebody else.
Yeah, like that's what I see in Zion, and is like, with Jaw, he's a playmaker. He can get his team involved. With Zion, he's like a one-trick pony where he gets the ball in the post, he backs you down, or he takes you from the three-point line in and gets his bucket. But he's not a guy who's making plays for his team.
Yeah.
So would you, if you're thinking of the Zion case, would you fight to get traded out of New Orleans, or would you look for management to bring somebody in to help?
I don't even think he'll have to fight to get out of New Orleans. I mean, eventually they'll just have to capitalize on what he's worth. I mean, New Orleans is never going to really accomplish much.
Yeah, the market's too small to probably sustain a guy like him long term. But then again, I mean, in my opinion, I don't think Zion's the next top 5 player of all time. I think Ja has more potential in that than Zion does, specifically out of that class. Now, if you take the last 2 years, 3 years into account, like it's gonna be, I think if you rank them, it's Luka, Trey, and then it's LaMelo, I would say, and then Ja or LaMelo and Ja intertwine at 3, and then Zion's 5.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not putting my team around Zion. Like I said, he's a one-trick pony. I'd rather put somebody on my team that's a playmaker who can get the team involved and can when it counts, make the plays to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, if Zion played for, I don't know, LSU or Georgia, like somebody that wasn't Duke, we wouldn't have had the hype to start with anyways. It wouldn't have started out at such a peak and just kept going. I 100% believe that, regardless of how long he played or he put up the same stats or did the same things that he did at Duke or even that he did in high school that you saw all the videos before he went to Duke. I mean, you could have seen all those videos, and if he goes to Montana, we're not talking about Zion the same way, and his cards wouldn't have started out, at the same peak that they were. I believe that. I mean,
yeah, I agree with that. Got a quick question from my man D Bland. So, what's up, guys? Question: with Luka going out of the playoffs, does that drastically change his card's value? As somebody who is currently holding Luka, yes and no. If you're holding a Luka base card, like a BGS 9.5 or a PSA 10, yes, the value of that has gone drastically down. If you are holding a colored card, a low numbered card, I think the market has probably changed a couple percent, but it's not as drastic as a base or a silver. Neil, you've probably been looking at Card Ladder on that and probably have a little bit more inside, but normally when a player goes out in the playoffs, they do take a dip, but it's still, looking at guys like Luka, he's a long-term hold for sure.
Yeah, so
it affects it for this year, probably. I mean, more so than, yeah.
Yeah, and that there's something I want to bring up when we go into talking about sports cards. I'll dive into this a little bit, just from talking with a couple of people. But over the past 2 years, if you look at Luka's value, so if we go back to start at COVID, right? March 21st, 424.62. So that sale was $424.62. And it got up to right around $2,000 right about the time that he was starting the playoffs. And then after he lost, dipped down to 1,300 and then rose back up to right around 1,900 as the max right about January. So, I mean, I think it's kind of he fell in the terms of all these modern players are going to be subsequent to their performance, their playoff performance, and their just what they're doing in the NBA. So right now, he's just because he's out of the playoffs. Excuse me, because he's out of the playoffs, his value is going to go down. But that means that there's a buying opportunity, with base PSA 10s, or even if you wanted to dip into the silvers, it's a little more expensive. But there's a buying opportunity that you can buy these cards and then flip them as the next season comes to start. I think they're starting a little bit. They starting in October again?
I think.
I'll be honest, I've only looked ahead to football.
Yeah.
I'm still going, so I haven't looked at next season yet.
But this is it. This goes to a good point. Just talking about market analytics. So what you want to do as far as buying and selling cards, there's really cyclical cycle where you want to buy cards in the off season and then flip them at the start of the season. And then once that mid-season lull happens, you can buy back the players who you think have a good potential at making the playoffs. And then you can sell them once they start those playoffs, once they make it past the first round, once they make it into the second round, and then cash in on another profit from there, and then buy them as they lose in the playoffs. So it's a cyclical market. That's the way it's always been. But we're in an interesting point in which the market is overcorrecting from a lot of money coming into it from the goat craze, the goat spike. And during that time, you had the modern dip, and that was the market correcting itself from basically all these cards were so hyped up. These players were so hyped up to be the next greatest thing, and the thing is, they just won't be that right now. So it's the market correcting itself, showing that these goats, the LeBrons, the Michaels, the Kobes, these patches, these patch autos, these rookies need to be at a higher standard than where these modern players are, until these modern players take that next step and either win a couple MVPs or go and win themselves championships, show that they're worth what that money is for what can be considered legends or goats.
I think the biggest thing with Luka that's going to come is you might see one of the biggest spikes that he's had, and that's saying a lot, obviously, with the way he's played, is Dallas didn't build that team around Luka. That team is just a team that they threw together to try and win some games when they thought Luka was going to be, maybe a C+ player or a B player, when they didn't know they had, an A-tier player. Now that Dallas knows that, if he gets another star, or I would say when he gets another star, and they build that team around Luka, then you'll see, I think, a huge spike out of Luka, because then I think they'll be 1, 2, 3 in the West for the next, 5+ years.
But does Mark Cuban go and buy players to help his superstars? I mean,
he should.
He doesn't mind doing it. Yeah. He's got the pockets.
Like, Porzingis isn't the guy that's going to help.
No,
that's why
Porzingis is worthless. But did they really help Dirk for all those years? I mean, Dirk was a phenomenal player. I mean, you could argue Luka's trajectory is going to be the same.
Help, though.
But he never had another superstar.
Yeah, and that's what you need to succeed.
Yeah, but
you can't do it with just role players.
Dirk, but Dirk ain't no Luka.
No, that's true.
And I'm good with saying that.
No, I think if Luka sticks on his career trajectory, I think at minimum he passes Dirk, and arguably probably the best foreign player ever. But he still has to maintain that trajectory, and he's still got to get help to be able to win a playoff series, because he hasn't done that yet.
Yeah.
So, quick question from Andrew Morales: how's D-Book's card status with the Phoenix Suns going into the finals?
If they win, I think they would explode. I think they're still going up, but
yeah. So base PSA 10 right now is sitting at 860. They were in May. They were jumping from 7 to 800, 663. I mean,
they win. It's $1,000 card.
I think if they make the finals, I think it goes up to 1,000.
Yeah,
that Ruby that I sold like a year ago. God damn it!
I think what we're seeing though is these base cards still aren't making the jumps like they should, like what would be normal in a cycle, in a market cycle, as someone goes deeper in the playoffs. But I think that's because people have come to realize that when you want to hold a rookie card, you want to hold a silver, you want to hold a numbered card, something that's going to have some longevity and some hold to it.
Something different, something that the base cards, even though that's what, because of the Zion craze, everybody was, so heavily on those base cards, but then it floods the market, as we're seeing with the pop counts. Mm-hmm. So the population is going through the roof. And as the higher that population goes, the less value that card maintains. So there could be 14, 15,000 PSA 10 Zions, where at one point, especially peak COVID, they were probably, $800 to $1,000 a pop. Now I'm sure you can get them for probably less than $400, $300. So, you're always looking for, like you said, Neil, the silvers, the numbered cards, the variations, something that's different. We're trying to get away from the base cards because it just doesn't, it doesn't work out in the long term.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying base cards don't have their position or their place in cards, because for every young collector, they can't afford the silvers. They can't afford the number cards. So they're going to get the base cards. But if you really want to hold a guy that you think is going to be the next big player, top 10 player legend, then you got to go for something higher end. You got to put the money down for at minimum a silver and above, because there's not sustainability with how big the pop reports are.
It's a long-term hold that you got to take that gamble. That's kind of why I don't get into baseball collecting, because if you want to be good at baseball collecting, if you're not going after a Mike Trout or a Shoney or something big, it's you're banking on guys who are in the minor leagues for a minimum of 4 to 5 years and hopefully make the show. There was a ton of talk on so many prospects that, don't pan out, even though it's not, a heavy investment. That's a long-term investment that I don't think a lot of people are willing to stick out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. James comes in with an interesting point. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. Is PSA pumping out too many PSA 10s?
You want me to take this, Dylan, or you got it?
That's all you. You're the pro.
So I'm far from pro. I'm a small fish in a big pond. I promise. So PSA used to be this way. So they used to hand out 10s all the time. Now, I think I took a picture of it. Someone ran the numbers on a grading card company's submission rate, and it came back as like 43% were going as PSA 10s, 52% were going as PSA 9s, and then the other 7%, 5% was going at like an 8 or below. So with that said, I think PSA has changed what they consider a 10, and they've kind of done it knowing that they're going to make a ton of money. So they've kind of done it under our nose without letting us know that they're changing their grading system and their grading scales. So it's kind of crappy from PSA, to be honest, for that to happen. But at the same time, like, I think they're trying to control pop reports. I've said this for months. They're trying to control pop reports because they let it get out of hand early, and then now they're just trying to make up lost money. And plus, people have already paid their money, so it doesn't matter to them. They don't care. They have more money than anybody. They know what to do with.
Agreed, and I think that them moving their scale is very evident, as we know, and I've posted on the Showtime Sports Cards Instagram page. I had a Justin Herbert red cracked ice and a Jalen Hurts red cracked ice that I pulled straight from pack that I bought from you, that I thought were 10s, dead nut 10s, maybe a 9 at best, and when they came back, they were 8s. Like, I could not figure out how or where an 8 could come from. And I don't think my last couple submissions, I don't think I've got a 10. And a couple Justin Herbert cards that, man, I can't find anything wrong with that are getting 10s. So James does ask a follow-up. He goes, does that make older PSA 10s less in value?
No, I don't know. It's a tough question. That's an interesting point. I don't know. I personally like older, like my vintage cards. I like them in an old holder because there's some like vintageness out of it, but at the same time, a 10 is a 10 is a 10. So
sure.
And if they're becoming less, I would say if they're becoming less likely to happen, then 10s are more valuable because people won't be getting as many 10s.
Yeah, sometimes you'll see people talk about the old labels, like Neil was saying, whether it's, just looks or feel or, whatever person's after. It seems to be a thing for some people. So I would say no, just off of label alone, some people dig it.
Speaking of my 8 cracked ice,
I pulled, yeah.
I can't believe, you guys were over when I pulled this. I can't believe that thing got an 8. And then I have a silver Justin Herbert playoff that got a 9 that I also wasn't real happy about. But, PSA is going to do what PSA does. I do think that 10s do not grade less in value, but it's going to depend on the population report 100% of the time. We'll go back to the Zion base card. If there's 15,000 of them, it's not as valuable as, let's say a Rui Hachimura silver PSA 10 with a pop of 200. So even though the player might be different, I personally think the population count increases the value of the card.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Just simply with traffic. I mean,
it's tough. But do you think also that what does like SGC come into the game? If they're throwing out 10, let's say, because their grading scale is a little bit different. They have 10s, 9.5s, but they also have the autographs. So you could get a 10-10, almost kind of like a BGS, but you're not going to get a black label. Does that put any threats or any of the new grading card companies besides BGS and PSA? They're still number 1 and 2, but with SGC starting to slowly creep up on anything, do you think they have anything else in the market share coming?
We talked about this a little bit, but before, just in text. But PSA is always going to be number 1 because it's the standard. It's the gold standard. Number 2, I think, is going to be interchangeable between BGS and SGC. That's just what the market's showing now because Beckett's not taking orders and their prices have gone up. I would only submit to BGS if I have a patch auto or a thick card, something that needs a better holder and would do better in BGS. My PSA, I'm sending my high-end rookie cards. I'm sending my high-end rookie card autos, like my Prism autos or Select autos, things like that. And then SGC, I think, will end up taking a lot of those base cards and low-end cards, and that'll end up being for the value. That'll end up being the value company because PSA doesn't need the money. They don't need to open back up the economy and the value levels again because they can make so much more money just with doing their premiums, their express. Like they don't need the money. Now they may, but I think it's going to be. I think the days of seeing PSA charging $25, I would say even $50, $30 for a value submission are out the window. I think if
they need to just
came
make
back,
it their niche to be, higher end, almost not only, but mid to high end only for PSA. Like at this point, then their turnaround times, they'll maybe actually stick to it, and you'll get what you're paying for.
Yeah, and that's the thing is PSA. You're paying the premium to get the premium grade and get the premium card. It's what you're paying for.
I hate SGC labels. The black looks awesome, but I hate their labels. Like the actual case of like the black on the sides, like I love that, but their labels are hideous.
Yeah, I would agree.
And
SGC is gross.
Like James's question about, we're kind of touching into newer companies coming in the market, and I still don't think you can go with an HGA, you go with a GMA, or there's.
I do like the look. I think their labels are cool, but I'm only going to do it if it's PC for HGA.
PC or CSG is the one that's like a lime green label.
Those are even worse than SGC.
Yeah, those are disgusting.
I've
like
never put one in my block, and then it's like mini. Yeah, no.
Now HGA I think has a little bit of like a niche to it, like some flair. But
I think you go after a younger audience if you're HGA, like
I mean you could
your eighth graders, tell their parents, you want a 20 card sub for HGA for Christmas, and then
that kind of brings up a good point. Because what I would do is, the high-end cards, the good cards that I know have good value, I would send a PSA. And then my older 90s cards that, I didn't really care about, but I could flip for $10 on piece, I would send to GMA because back then it was like $4 a card to get slabbed. So I would do that, flip them real quick, make $6. But, are you trying to make money off your slab, or are you just trying to get it slabbed? If you're trying to make money off of it, you don't really want to go with the lower tier people, because then it doesn't increase the value of the card. If you get a 10 out of 10 and it's a GMA, like no one's going to pay 20 grand for a GMA 10.
Yeah, that's why SGC has been slowly creeping up in the market, because the value of only paying $27 to your local, grading company or grader, like at Card Collector 2 or Clay Cards or someone, or KK Sports Cards, if you can pay $27 and it's starting to increase that value again, then there's that value money of making money by grading again. Right now it's too hard to do, and I think SGC is what's been deemed the play for that.
So we've been on sports cards for a hot second. Let's continue to go the sports card route before we jump into anything else. Obviously, the Nationals coming up within a month and a half. We've talked about in the past. We think football is going to be big. I jumped on it last night. I know I texted both of you guys that, as much junk as I talked about Tua last week, and I'm still not a Tua believer, you bet I bought myself a in-case Tua BGS 9 on card auto for out of 50 for $200. So, Tua's there. I was listening to Dan Orlovsky today. He said, if Aaron Rodgers goes to Miami with that defense and those playmakers, they have a Super Bowl team. But,
so you're banking on the Tua getting a championship as a backup and it going up?
Maybe. I think if Tua has one or two games, it's an easy flip. I'm looking on eBay right now, and the BGS 9s out of 50 are not selling, but they're sitting there in market for 800, 900. It's something to sit on. Now, do I think I could sell it for that right now? Absolutely not. You got to get a game or two into the season. So it's an easy hold. Like we were saying earlier, if you want to make money, you have to buy in the off season. No matter who you believe in, you got to find somebody. And I was doing that all last night. Who do I feel that could have not even just a good full season, but a good couple games where I can take the value up $100 to $200. So do I think Tua can have a good couple games, win, 5 in a row? Yeah.
The Colts.
We'll see about that. I hope Darius Leonard ear holes him, but
that's if Darius can get on the field and not get another concussion.
He's had one concussion and missed 2 games.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Once your boy Aaron Donald finally gets popped for steroids, then we'll talk.
Hey, whatever he's on, I want some of it.
So looking at the Nationals, and I think, Neil's going, it's sounding like I'm going to go too. So Neil, talk about the Nationals for people who have, aren't really into the card game and are kind of just tuning in for us. What is the National? Why is everybody so hyped, and why do we think that this year is going to be the biggest National of all time? Okay,
so I just want to preface this by saying I've never been to the National, mostly because of my work schedule. I don't get that opportunity. I start preseason sports that last week in August, which is the same time as the National. So it just so happens to work out that August 1st starts on a Sunday. So I get to go a little bit early. But anyways, so I think we are, 7, 14. Yeah, we're talking like 45 days from the National. I think that's right. 45 days. Yeah, 45 days from the National. So the reason why this is going to be the biggest National probably in sports card history is because, one, we just went through a pandemic. So we would have had the National last year. We would have had all these other shows going on, and we never got that opportunity. So everybody who's been planning to go to the National has had to wait one more year. And with everything going on, they can't get out. The fact that they finally get to travel to a location that's centralized in the United States, but also accessible from the worldwide, it's going to be epic. And I've heard stories from Ryan at Card Collector 2 that this place is huge. We're talking 1,000+ tables there. And I've been to a show, local shows, where there's 100 tables. So I can only imagine what 1,000 tables will look like, and then a giant convention center filled just for trade night. it's going to be insane, and I can't wait.
And it's not like guys are just walking around with $20, $30 in their pocket. There are guys who are going to be
millions
in cash, ready to buy, sell, trade. And we're not just talking about we're not talking about like just raw cards or slab cards. People are going to be buying wax. People are going to be ripping cards open. I'm sure. Well, I don't know if I've heard yet or if you guys have heard yet, because normally PSA does some subs on site and BGS does the same thing. I don't know if that's happening this year, obviously with them being backed up.
Didn't PSA say they were going to be on site?
They might have, and I may have missed it, but I don't think they came out with a price range yet.
That line or wait will be longer than the damn Marvel Studios opening. Fucking, there's no way that if you're not first in line, you'll be 800th, and it'll be 4 hours. It'll be 8 hours.
No. What's really going to be the kicker is it's like, yeah, you thought paying $150 for an express sub was crazy. People will pay $1,000 on site
for sure
to have it graded.
Get it back. Oh yeah,
like
for sure. If I'm pulling some Justin Herbert, right there in the pop, and let's say White Sparkle 101 Justin Herbert auto, I'm paying whatever it costs to get it graded right then.
Oh yeah, because whatever it grades at, whatever it's once it's slabbed, the thing will never go down in value, and it's going to be like a 101 White Sparkle Justin Herbert would just, I mean, you're talking what? I mean,
I saw the Luka today. It was 56,000, and it was like a PSA 8.
What didn't the Herbert go in golden auction sell for like 50 grand a couple months ago? I wouldn't be surprised if something like that sells for 20 or 30 just right off the bat.
So I think the National is going to be a great time. You're going to see everything, all sorts of sports cards, sports wax. And it's not just like the typical sports. Wrestling's getting popular kind of again. The UFC cards are taking off, getting popular.
I don't understand it.
It's crazy. Like I saw, it wasn't Laparo, but it was somebody else that had a box of UFC like 2017, which would be McGregor's rookie year. They're like $2,000 a box.
Yep.
The UFC cards, you've got to be cracked out of your mind.
You have to,
in my opinion, to be doing that. I don't understand.
And Pokemon's taking a dip, which, kind of saw that coming. That hype train left with Logan Paul ripping up all them boxes. And, even though he wore that BGS 10 Charizard out to the fight, like he could say it's $1 million.
It wasn't even Black Label. That doesn't fucking do it for me.
That's why I don't say it's $1 million card. It can't be $1 million card if it's not a Black Label.
There's only 3 BGS 10s though.
Who gives a fuck? If you're gonna wear something to the ring and flex on people,
it's got to be a
pop.
Black Label or bust.
Pop and scarcity of the card counts.
That 9.5 is the ugliest fucking thing on that goddamn necklace. It's like, oh, it's 10. Like, yeah, but it looks fucking hideous.
But it's got a 9 on it.
Or 9.5. Go fuck yourself.
So, and like Neil said, like the trade night's going to be crazy if you've never experienced a trade night, like talking about wheeling and dealing sports cards, going from table to table. It's fun. It's exhilarating. Like, hey man, I'll trade you this Justin Herbert for yada, 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 Baker and somebody else or this and that, like wheeling and dealing. Like that's cool. And to imagine the amount of cards and people and players available kind of blows my mind, because I'm sure it's like the size of the Indianapolis Convention Center.
So you just got to pick up the 12-year-olds to trade, and then,
I think it might be bigger than the Indianapolis Convention Center.
So, quick question. We can stick on the National for this, and I know this is getting popular. I'm not a part of it. But quick question. What are your thoughts on the digital playing cards, like the NBA Top Shots, the, what are they called? The NFTs.
Yeah.
Are
the fad.
So
don't even just get it away.
Is it a fad, or is it because that the NBA is behind it and the players are getting percentages off these items? Is the NFL going to push for this? Is the MLB going to push for this so the players can get some money off? Because they're all going to follow the card trade.
Yeah, they're all gonna do these NFTs, but don't fall into it.
I feel like it's been quiet the last 4 months since it like exploded, and I was like, oh shit, maybe it needs to be a thing, and I was starting to talk to buddies that had a bunch of options and stuff like that, and since then, I feel like it's been quiet. And maybe that's just me because I'm not in the market. You know what I mean?
But I think that there's just too many, because now anybody can make an NFT.
Yeah. If I want to go watch a clip, I'm going to YouTube. I still don't quite understand it.
I don't need to pay $10,000 for a LeBron layup that I can go find on YouTube.
True, and I can see, like, you know, guys who drive the market how they want, people who have very influential parts in the space, like a Gary V. Gary V, you know, for a while it was where Gary V talked, that's where the sports market went. Now he got on the Top Shot craze / the NFTs, and he created his own, and he kind of drives the market because he's got a big old following of, you know, millions and millions of people. Now, I think he's driving the market, and he always has driven the market how he wants it to be seen and be bought. But I agree with, you know, you guys. It's a fad. It's not going to last long term. Anything that I cannot personally hold, or I don't want it to be a part of, because, you know, I can't wheel and deal it.
Yeah. When people start influencing and trying to tell you about something, they're trying to promote it, and a lot of these influencers are trying to promote that stuff to try and pump their own market, what they've invested in, and that's what they're trying to make money off of it. So at the end of the day, you can listen to our podcast, you can listen to Card Talk Pod, you can listen to Sports Cards Nonsense with Mike Gio, you can listen to any one of those podcasts. But at the end of the day, you got to make your own decision and what's right. Don't just listen to an influencer tell you something. You got to go and make your own decisions and educate yourself.
I would put that disclaimer out for anything card wise, because at the end of the day, some people do it for money. Some people are doing it. If you like the player and the card looks cool, if it's a $4 card, who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Like, if you like the card, you like the player, the team, if you want to grade it, I mean, I bust balls as much as you guys do about, you know, people sending cards in. But if you want to send a $10 card in to Express, go for it. It's, you know, your call, your money. Like, at the end of the day, you're going to pay that, and I might not unless it's worth a certain value. But yeah, I mean, and if NFT is your thing, if you like being on a computer and you don't have access to, you know, cards or somebody that's trading, then go for it. But
I can give a good example of comic books. I mean, I have a huge comic book collection to the point where I like it for the art, and the cooler the front cover, that makes me want to buy it, whether it be the art, whether it be a holographic, whether it be shiny in some sports. It's not that I care about the comic itself, but I might find just the cover art cool. That makes me want to spend the X amount of money on it. And people do the same thing with cards. So if you fall into the point where you're just, you know, you're trying to make money and you're trying to make these wheel and deals, like, you know, some people it works out for, some people it doesn't. You should always start with, and we've all done it, we always start with a PC of who we like to collect, and then we build on from there. You know, if we're able to wheel and deal and trade for some higher end cards, you start out small and you work your way up. Like, I saw a great video with Sasha this week where he came to a card show with $5 in cash, and he bought a single card and just started making deals at this place where there was less than, I'd say, 20 tables, and worked his way up. And I think he finished with like $150 in cash, taking cards, flipping cards, moving them back and forth, this and that. Like, there are ways to do it in the end, but you have to first educate yourself, and then you have to be willing to kind of wheel and deal, trade, and work your way up. Like, you can't, if you're going out there during the COVID craze and spending, you know, $800,000 on a Jordan PSA 10, and now they're going for like $325 or something like that, you're gonna be pissed because you just lost like $500,000.
Yeah, but the same light, the people who are buying the Jordan PSA 10 aren't buying that knowing that it's going to be a quick flip. They're buying that knowing that long term, the Jordan PSA 10 is eventually going to be $1 million card.
Mm-hmm.
Because only 225 people in the world will have a Jordan PSA 10.
Yeah. So lot of cards going on. We'll jump into a little bit of sports. Like Neil, your Avalanche crumbled.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
Looking at the hockey playoffs, like it's going to be Montreal. It's going to be Vegas. Who you got?
I got Vegas. I just think that with Fleury, the way that he's playing, and just, I mean, his pedigree of, big moments in the playoffs, along with that team that Vegas has built years ago. I mean, there's a reason that team's so good. They have a little bit of everything. They got playmakers. They got, some studs. They're physical. They're big. They play big. They got, 5, deep demon, you know what I mean? 6, but, 5 that really stand out. The Islanders are playing extremely well. So I would be surprised if they don't make it. I mean, the Lightning are, extremely talented, and obviously just got done winning the whole damn thing, so it wouldn't surprise me to see them come back. But the Islanders just seem like the hottest team maybe in the playoffs. Now that, Colorado's out, I would say that those were the 2 hottest teams, and it didn't seem to affect Vegas at all to go 7 games to the Wild. They slipped up once, get punked on by the Avalanche, and then we're in it the rest of the way, and they go 7 again, and we'll see what they do tonight. If they come out tonight and, beat up the Canadians, then you've got a team that's played 14 games, doesn't really show it, and, the train keeps on going.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd like to see – I mean, Vegas put in a lot of work for, I don't know, however long they've been in here. But, I mean, they were pretty close to winning it their first year out, and now I think they've kind of, tasted what it's like to lose, and now they're hopefully they get the job done. I'd like to see them get the job done. I think they deserve it the way they've played the last 5-6 years. From a hockey standpoint, I think their time's coming. They've paid their dues.
I think if Vegas were to win it and say they go to the finals or something again next year, I mean, that team is built for long-term success too. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the NHL looked at how they do expansion drafts. Like, we'll see what Seattle does. If Seattle comes out and is immediately what Vegas was, I wouldn't surprise me if they looked at how they do the expansion draft, because, I mean, Vegas came out and it was full-on cheat code. I mean, they played it brilliantly. They played it for quick success, but also managed to absolutely stack picks. So, Neil, I saw the cameo, Neil. It distracted me.
Yeah, Gizmo came here to sleep. He's pissed off.
Yep, Gizmo said, "What up?"
He's pissed off. I'm not playing with his ball right now.
So I think we were recording last week when this was going on, and I was going to make a bet on it, but you guys probably caught the USA-Mexico soccer game.
Yeah.
So watching that gives me hope again for USA men's soccer, but they're going to get really good, and then they're going to break our hearts like normal.
Yeah, don't be duped. They're still trash.
Here's what I got to say about U.S. soccer. So what is it? It's been 6 years Mexico's beat us in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
So winning this is a good sign, but take it and be happy with it. And when the World Cup comes next year, be happy when you make it out of the group stage and you play in the round of 16.
Yeah.
Don't expect us to just go and beat up on France, because Mbappe is going to score 12 goals if that happens.
I think you have to hope to qualify.
I think and that's a realistic goal.
Yeah.
To make it to qualify, and then from there make it into the round of 16. I think that's your realistic goal. And if you exceed those, great. If not, then you know where you got to improve.
We just need to get some of this FIFA corruption on the USA side and just put us in a group with, like Albania and, Albania Tech and Albania State. And then we'll win a group, and like who do the U.S. have to float money to? Who do we have to
to not take on
give
Brazil.
some political incentives to just put us in a group? That's all we need.
We'll get Brazil, Portugal, and like Croatia.
And if that was the group, they would lose every single game.
100%. 100%.
By their goal differential would be -12. I mean, it would be so bad. Even if Portugal's 100 years old, you know what I mean, and Ronaldo's out there in a crutcher,
walker.
Yeah, a walker. He still is scoring.
Oh, for sure.
He
And
would stand on the goal line. They would play 10 on 11, and when the ball got down there, he would still end up scoring.
And I also saw, so kind of this relates to cards because I got two Ronaldos. I got a 2017 Topps Chrome PSA 10, and then I also got a World Cup Prism from 14 PSA 10 Ronaldo. Now I saw that Ronaldo's looking to exercise. It's not a trade clause. It's what's it called?
Transfer clause.
Transfer clause or something like that. Now him being shipped to another team, does that help or hurt his cards, or does it depend on what's going on in the Champions League or the Euros or something like that?
He needs to get on that MLS clause.
Yeah, if he wants to make money, he's going to want to go to the MLS. But for his card value, he needs to go play for probably a team that he's played for before and been successful at. He's on the downslope of his career, so he's got to rejuvenate it somehow if his cards are going to go back up.
I mean, if I'm him and I want to make the most money and capitalize on it and look at what happened this past year, go to Man U. They finally have their shit together. It looks like it. Now they fucked up better situations before, I think. But that was rumored, I think, a couple years ago, even that he might go back and it was a possibility. But if you're looking at it now, like, why not? Go there, play a couple seasons, and then when you're, 57, come to the MLS. You'll still be the best player in the MLS. You'll do what Beckham did, but more, and you'll win, 2-3 MLS titles. And there you go. Call it a career. And that'll make cards pop.
Speaking of Ronaldo, have you guys watched the Euros at all? Do you guys have any takes on who's gonna?
Yeah, fuck Spain. I lost money on Spain today. They can go fuck themselves. A bunch of bums out there.
Who's your guys' pick for the Euro?
I'll tell you tomorrow when I see the
Germany-France game.
Yeah, give me the winner of that game.
Because
I'd like to see the Netherlands play too. Did they play tomorrow or did they play today? I think they might play tomorrow. I'd like to see what the Netherlands look like.
Well, who's our hot guys are we looking for? Are we looking at Mbappe,
Harry Kane,
Jadon
Sancho? But you could argue Ronaldo if they make a run.
Yeah, I mean Messi plays tomorrow. I think.
Good. I just got a Messi PSA 10.
Kevin De Bruyne didn't play the first
He's
game, but
injured, I believe. Yeah.
He got his face busted in. But I think he's supposed to be back, and they should win their group. So
yeah, Belgium looks good. I would say if you're looking at we like to mix in bets. If you're looking for like a value bet that's going to be like 10-1, I think Belgium could win it all.
Yeah, they're
plenty of talent. Lukaku's a hell of a striker. Yeah.
That's a guy that you could potentially look at. Romelu Lukaku. He's gonna score a lot of goals.
Yeah. He's one of those guys that if he's not in it, he's not in it. He's a very strange player. Sometimes I feel like when he's just like, I could be a 10 at all times, but if I woke up today and, I'm feeling kind of lazy or just not feeling like I love soccer, then he'll disappear. You know what I mean? It's the damnedest thing. It's what's always kept him from being
the next guy.
That guy. That's why he's moved around just a little bit in his career. It's like you always like Pogba. You always want more from him because you know what he is at his best. So I think that's plagued him a little bit. But yeah, Belgium has some hella talent. But Germany does too. France does too. And they're all young.
England does. England
does. Yeah, Sterling looked good.
Yeah.
So let's move into just the final couple topics. We can tie this one into bets from last weekend. So obviously the UFC fights this past weekend. My biggest dog that I bet on, the Diaz fight, he was plus 400 and he was getting demolished for the first 4 rounds. And then round 5 with 1:30 left, he hits a straight left hand, puts Leon Edwards on wobbly legs, and I thought, he's going down. I'm about to cash 500, but he doesn't jump on him and just lets it walk away.
Classic Diaz.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Classic Diaz.
I'm over at Tommy's house, like standing up, like yelling at the TV to just go forward and finish him. Like, don't hang out. Just like, you set it up perfectly. Now finish the job.
Nah, he wanted to tee off and knock his face out.
For sure.
He wanted to knock his head off his body.
But Leon Edwards has the worst luck of any dude known to man in that division. So right there was his chance to get finished, and Diaz didn't do it. He cost us money. But
not me.
Oh,
I didn't bet on anything.
I did all right with some underdogs though. Okay, Grant cashed, Marino cashed.
Hey, here's something we didn't think about, guys. The U.S. Open is this week.
It is.
Who are we taking?
Oh,
so I'm
gonna say one word.
Put that out into the atmosphere yet because I am in a pool with a couple of different bettors. And the snake draft hasn't happened yet, and I can't be, putting my picks out there into the universe.
Well, let's see. Let's look at it.
Brooksy,
you're gonna go Brooks. I'm gonna go Dustin Johnson.
Oh God, I'm glad you brought up Dustin Johnson, because if there is one person, and I'm sorry to say this, if there is one person that I wish would trade places with Kobe Bryant, it's Dustin Johnson.
Oh my God,
I hate that guy. Like,
only because that would then make Polina Gretzky available again.
Oh, yeah.
I'm mad about that.
That probably helps a little bit.
Okay, I'm not talking about his cocaine benders and his smoking hot wife.
He's so arrogant though, and like
so was Bryson.
Bryson and Brooks that's the best thing golf has going for it.
Yes, yeah,
for sure,
yeah, 100%.
It's
Bryson,
like Shooter McGavin and Happy Gilmore. Kick them on.
We feed those two full of coke and steroids before they go out on their next round.
Well, protein shakes too. Don't forget those.
Like, Bryson is the type of guy that original normal golf people hate, but he has this mystique, macho.
It's the metal spikes, bro.
The science. He's part science nerd, part super buff dude who crushes 9 protein shakes a day and is a long drive, or what they say in Happy Gilmore, the super long hit the ball guy. And he's
golf ball smasher guy or whatever he says.
Cutting courses in half, hitting from the tee, that you don't typically do. And then he's saying, like, at the Arnold Palmer Classic, these are the 2 worst bunkers on tour. Like, saying it on camera about Arnold Palmer's course. Like, he's the type of dude that doesn't care. And, original golf fans don't like him. But,
Arnold Palmer's drink's overrated as fuck anyways.
Agreed.
You watch your mouth.
Agreed.
So, hey, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Something can be good, but stupid overrated at the same time.
Hey, you can't.
Arnold Palmer's, yeah, I agree.
You can't get diabetes if you don't try.
That's
I'll
true.
Just say that.
So sticking with Dustin Johnson to win, that's my pick.
Oh, jeez.
He's plus 1,800. So
can we get Brooksy and Bryson to, like, after the round go into a ring and just battle it out?
They're crazy if they don't make that into what Phil Mickelson's been milking every Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Like Mickelson, Tiger, give me
this Thanksgiving,
Brooksy.
this fucking November, put them in a ring, and nobody would watch that competition with Brady and Mickelson. Every person would watch the Bryson Brooks fucking throwdown, dude.
Yeah. You know what? Give them a weapon each. Give them their best club, and they get to use it.
Kendo sticks. That's the only thing. I want to see how hard kendo sticks.
I want to see a driver, chip, and putt match. You get 3 clubs to knock each other out.
I'm looking at bets now or odds. Well, I'll give something out since I can't give away too many picks since my snake draft hasn't happened yet. Rory at plus 400 to be top 20. I will fucking put my house on it that I don't have, but the bank account. There we go.
All right, bank
I mean,
account.
Rory plus 400 to be top 20.
Does that mean I get your bank account when he crumbles this weekend?
To be in top 20?
Top 20 plus 400. Give me that.
That's all day.
Give me that.
He's 20-1.
Yeah. Well, no, he's 4-1.
4-1 to win it.
20. That's not to win. That's
just to be in the top 20.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think
I realize he hasn't won in 7 years, but his strokes gained off the tee, approach, and putting wise, like that's what it takes at Torrey Pines, man. I'll take my chances at 4-1 to be top 20. I think he's going to be around there on the last day. I'd say final group.
No, I don't see that. I don't see Rory playing in final group.
Let's jump into the final thing. Let's do some bets. Dylan, kind of what you're looking at this weekend. Who would you take? Who would you bet on? It could be any sport. Like, who are your hot picks for the week and the weekend?
So, U.S. Open, we already touched on that a little bit, so I won't go too much into that. I mean, during the week, we got Lightning Islanders tomorrow. I would be surprised, even saying as hot as the Islanders were, if the Lightning didn't win and split it. Tomorrow? Yeah. Then you got Knights Canadians. I think the Knights take it at home, but probably have to watch the spread on that because I bet it's going to be massive with Vegas at home. Thursday, you get the Islanders at home. I would hammer that probably regardless of the spread unless it gets up to minus 280. Then you're really looking at maybe some goal props. This weekend for hockey is you get the Canadians at home on Sunday. You got the Islanders at home on Saturday. Again, I would probably hammer that place has been insane. I mean, absolutely rowdy all playoffs. So I'm probably not betting against the Islanders at home from here on out. This week, I mean, the Sixers are going to close it out on Wednesday. I don't see that not happening. If Kevin Durant doesn't get any help back, the Bucks could play underwater against the Nets and they're going to win because without Kyrie and Harden, there's not a lot of hope for KD. I mean, that he's dealing with bums. The Jazz go back home on Wednesday. Again, I think that's probably trouble a lot. I mean, the home teams are in some good spots just with matchups and some injuries in a lot of the sports. So it looks chalky, but you don't want to, just betting against, someone just because they're an underdog for the bigger payday, you don't want to go chasing paydays. So a lot of that, there's some to be determined. There could be no NBA. You might correct me if I'm wrong. If teams win out, I don't think there's a chance that there could be no NBA this weekend, possibly. I think they'd only let like one day go in between. They'd somehow get away. But as far as like this series, like these series, I think could be done by the weekend.
Yeah.
Just the way that everything's looking. I think the biggest thing that I'll put my time into bet-wise this weekend will be the U.S. Open, obviously, because it starts Thursday. So that's what I will be doing probably tomorrow, all of tomorrow, and next day.
I will say the golf is the one thing that I do bet on.
I only bet on the majors. I'm kind of, a Sunday churchgoer like that. Yeah. It's like you only go to church on the major holidays. I'm only betting on golf and horses on the major races and the major events. That's just, because those are really the only ones that I watch. And now I'll follow it, through the smaller tournaments, but I just don't, sit down and watch 4 days of golf if it's not a major. I'll watch Sundays or Saturdays, maybe both of them, but the fucking Cubs are getting killed.
Ooh. So how about take a pick right now, especially with the odds. And I'm looking at that stupid celebrity boxing again. So Jake Paul versus Tyrone Woodley. Woodley is a 150 dog right now. Do you take that money? Paul is plus 120.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm probably betting on the YouTuber. Yeah.
Well, because
Are there any other prop bets that look a little bit?
I'm sure there
a little
would
bit
be.
better.
I'm sure there would be. I think they just have the money line right now because what Vegas likes to do is they want a lot of people to start betting on Woodley. I guarantee by the time the fight starts, it'll be even money, and you'd have to.
Hey, I thought
round.
I was thinking about this. How much of how many rounds is it?
8.
How much of this is Woodley being a championship fighter? He's gone 5 rounds at 5 minutes in the UFC. How much of this is he lets Jake Paul tire himself out and then puts him to sleep in the later rounds because he's a professional and he knows how to go the distance?
I'm not sure his chin can hold up anymore to do that.
I agree with Dylan. He hasn't won a fight in 4 years. He is a boxer. He's been training at Wildcard since 2008. So it's not like he hasn't boxed before. I agree with Dylan. I don't think his chin can hold up, so he tries to get him out of there ASAP.
I also think he's a little mentally fragile.
And Jake's bigger than
he loses that many times in a row. If I'm Jake, I just press him. Like, I'm just going to walk forward and just, if you're going to lose to a YouTuber, then you're going to do it.
What's Jake walk around at?
I
have no idea.
Well, like let's see, the fight's going to be anywhere between 190 and 170 would be my guess. It's got to be like 190-ish. Because Tyrone,
he's cutting much weight to do these fights, and I don't know at all.
It's got to be 190-ish to 180 something. But Tyrone doesn't look like as big as he used to be. Like when he starched Koscheck, like he's not like TRT Tyrone right now.
Yeah,
he's old boy, 40 years old.
Yeah, but that's why I said how much of this does he play smart, knowing that he's been there before, he's done this. Maybe he can hide himself for 5 rounds and then bring it out when he wants because he knows that he can do it.
I mean, you could play the Mayweather role, but then you're risking going down early.
Hey, I'm rooting for him. I hope that he punches Jake Paul's fucking face off.
Same.
But I just don't. That's not where my money's gonna be.
Is there an over under if Jake Paul comes out with the Charizard BGS 10?
No, because he's not a card guy.
Yeah, but just does it just to
no. No. And it's got to be better than that Lamar Odom versus Aaron Carter fight.
That was the best. That's the best celebrity one I've seen so far.
Wait,
Chuck Liddell is the referee.
Does Jake Paul come out with a Nate Robinson PSA 10 around his?
That would be
epic.
Get in his head. Come out with the Tyrone fucking Woodley.
A Tyrone Woodley autograph card.
Fucking do it.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be total troll move. I love it.
Cool. So we'll wrap this up because this podcast has probably been just as bad as that Lamar Odom Aaron Carter fight, and
it was terrific.
We're trying to Chuck Liddell this thing all the way to the end. So
they 100% fought for an 8 ball. You could tell by the motivation. 100%. You could see it in their eyes.
So any final thoughts, Neil? I'll start with you first.
I got something just from a buddy of mine. We talk all the time. Squint Sports Cards on Instagram. His name's Justin. He's a great guy in the hobby. Very, 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 very knowledgeable. And I definitely respect a lot of the stuff that he does. A lot of the plays that he does, it's stuff that you don't think of, but is great value in my opinion. A lot of his collection is great. But he brought up just kind of like a hot take, a hot take, or just kind of your thoughts over the next 5 years. The guys like Trey, Luka, Zion, Ja, Anthony Edwards, LaMelo, these modern players, how much of their value is going to be tied to not only their career in basketball, but how relevant they are outside of basketball in terms of being involved in gaming, being involved as a personality, as a TV personality, entertainment. How much is that going to play a part in their role 5 years from now? And as the NBA moves forward, because I see a lot, and you can see this with people like Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard. Their cards don't reflect how good they are. Because, I mean, Kawhi goes and wins a championship this year. He'll be the second player ever behind LeBron, because, LeBron's to go to win 3 finals MVPs with 3 different teams. So, but he doesn't get the respect that
we don't have
he
to worry
probably
about
should
that
deserve.
happening.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but to this point, it's what I'm trying to say is, how much of outside career success is going to be tied to these modern players, because personality is important to a lot of these younger fans, these younger collectors.
I can see
Well, if that's the case, I think Luka's at an automatic disadvantage just because he is not American.
Yeah.
I mean, that hurts him. Obviously, shouldn't, you know what I mean? But even if he's as, outgoing as possible, it'll limit his opportunities, whether it's commercials, just because he can't jump up there and, start knocking out, English is his second language, you know what I mean? So I think that hurts him a little bit, but I think it's something he'll get better at. Obviously, he's still, 26, 27. I mean, you know what I mean? If birth certificates are all correct. Foreign-born players are notorious for maybe not having the cleanest birth records in the world. So
I am 12.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, but at no fault of his own, I think that may not hurt his cards, but it may limit his success outside of or off the court.
Mm-hmm.
But what about those other guys?
Trey, I mean,
maybe being the villain. Maybe that keeps him.
That he's got to embrace. Yeah, I would just every time I go back to New York, I would just
he's
be
the most hated person in New York, and I think that's going to bode well for him for the length of his
your whole career. Next time you go back, I don't care if it's a preseason game. Take your pants off when you hit a layup. You know what I mean? Just be an absolute scumbag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
wear fucking Boston Red Sox shit every time you show up to that fucking stadium, just to fucking piss him off.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other choice for him.
So, all right, Dylan, any final thoughts from you on anything you got?
I don't know. Hopefully the Cubs pull their head out of their ass tonight so I can hit that bet. I mean, they're down 4-0. I mean, they were underdogs, so it's not like I hammered it, but the fuck, Chris?
So we'll wrap it up. Thanks everybody again for tuning in. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook at the Dream 3 Podcast. You can follow us on Twitch. We're always Twitch live when we stream, and our YouTube page. Please like and subscribe. If you have any questions for anything, feel free to always write in the comments. We try to talk live. If you watch live, we try to answer all the questions that you got. We always look at the questions on all the pages. If you want to reach out personally, on Instagram, at Showtime Sports Cards, at Doughboy Sports Cards 1. Dylan still doesn't have an Instagram page, so I'm not going to pump that. So until next time, we also got to thank Kings of Nitro Clothing. Check them out on Instagram at the Kings of Nitro. But until next time, which could be this weekend, could be next week, we'll figure it out. But yeah, this has been another terrible Aaron Carter versus Lamar Odom 8-ball clash. So
I thought it was good.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Give us some questions. Let's talk some junk next time.
LeBron is the GOAT. I just had to throw that in there. So
all right, we are definitely ending on that note. Space Jam 2 is going to suck.
For sure.
All right, I'm out. Later.
Peace.
Peace.